The moment you justify your actions, you hand over the blade to your enemy. Explanation is the ultimate confession of a subordinate. It is the sound of a throne crumbling. In the court of power, the silent are feared, but the talkative are merely managed. Look around you. The world is a crowded marketplace of voices, each person begging, pleading, and screaming to be understood. They believe that by explaining their motives, they are building bridges. They are wrong. They are building their own gallows. In The Prince, Machiavelli did not speak of the common man's need for approval. He spoke of the sovereign's need for distance. When you explain yourself, you are not communicating. You are auditioning. You are asking for permission to exist in your current state. You are telling the listener, your judgment of me matters more than my own conviction. This is not the language of a general. It is the whimper of a courtier. Every word defense is a drop of blood in the water. Predators, the wolves who navigate the halls of influence, do not hear your logic. They hear your insecurity. They smell the rot of a man who is unsure of his own ground. Imagine a king seated upon a high throne of stone. A disgruntled merchant approaches, demanding to know why the taxes have been raised. If the king descends to explain the logistics of the treasury, the complexity of the wars, or the necessity of the grain, he has already lost his crown. In that moment, he is no longer a king. He is an accountant. The merchant now feels entitled to argue. The mystery is gone. The sanctuary is breached. But if the king remains silent, if he simply stares with an unreadable gaze, the merchant is left with nothing but his own fear. The silence is a fortress. Robert Greene warns us in the 48 Laws of Power, always say less than necessary. Why? Because the more you say, the more common you appear. Power is a phantom that vanishes the moment it is over-explained. To explain is to diminish. To remain silent is to ascend. In the wild, a predator watches for a limp, a stagger, or a frantic movement. In the human court, the limp is your explanation. To explain is to confess a lack of absolute authority. Why? Because a man who is truly certain of his foundation sees no need to justify it to the herd. When you speak to defend your choices, you are handing over the blueprints of your mind. You are showing the world exactly where your insecurities lie and where your walls are thin. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that power is built on perception, not truth. If you explain your why, you invite an argument. If you remain silent, you command an observation. In the 48 Laws of Power, we learn that words are the tools of the weak to gain sympathy. Silence is a tool of the elite to gain respect. Imagine a general standing before his troops at the edge of the abyss. He orders a march into the darkness. A junior officer steps forward, eyes darting, asking for the tactical justification, the supply route, the logic behind the risk. If the general begins to map out his fears and his reasons, the seeds of mutiny are sown. The soldiers no longer see a leader. They see a man who is as uncertain as they are. But if the general merely looks at the horizon and says nothing, his silence becomes a suffocating weight. The officer retreats. The troops follow, not because they understand the plan, but because they fear the conviction of a man who feels no need to share it. Understand this. Loyalty is a waiting room for betrayal. When you explain yourself to those around you, you are trying to buy their loyalty with logic. But logic is a fragile currency. The moment someone offers them a better reason, their loyalty will evaporate. True power is not being understood. It is being unreadable. Balthasar Gracian wrote in The Art of Worldly Wisdom, "Do not show your wounded finger, for everything will knock against it." Your explanation is you pointing directly at your wound. It tells the world exactly where to strike to make you bleed. Most people are terrified of silence. They feel an agonizing pressure to fill the void. When you refuse to explain yourself, you create a psychological vacuum. The other person, desperate for comfort of a reason, will begin to talk. They will offer their own theories, reveal their own biases, and eventually they will expose their own hand. By saying nothing, you force them to negotiate with themselves. In Influence, Robert Cialdini speaks of the power of authority. True authority does not justify, it mandates. To weaponize silence, you must master the art of the blank stare. When questioned about a personal decision, imagine you are at a grand banquet of courtiers, modern predators in tailored suits. Someone throws a veiled insult disguised as a question. Why did you pass on that deal? It seems you miss a massive opportunity. explain your vision, to defend your caution, or to boast of a secret plan. This is a snare. If you answer, you are beneath them. Instead, you tilt your glass. You look them in the eye for 3 seconds longer than is comfortable. You say, I had my... And then you turn to your drink. You have just sucked the air out of the room. By not explaining, you have turned a missed opportunity into a calculated mystery. They are now wondering what you know that they don't. You haven't defended your fortress. You've made it invisible. Confidence is not a loud declaration. Confidence is a silent shield. It is the internal realization that your reasons are your own property. To give them away for free is to devalue your own intellect. Gratian advises us to keep people in suspense. If they know the why, they can predict the what. If they cannot predict you,